took nature hundreds of millions of years to evolve a bacterium and billions of years to make a grasshopper.
So I alone am the one who's responsible for what's happened.
Let me ask, when did you first feel that everyone is accountable for their actions?
Well, thanks to you for sending that creation science material, because I always believe the lie that evolution is truth, the theory of evolution is truth, that we all just came from the slime, and when we died, you know, that was it. There was nothing. So the whole theory cheapens life, and started reading books about that show how evolution is just a complete lie. There's no basis in science to uphold it.
Thou hast covered me in my mother's womb. I will praise thee, for I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Marvelous are thy works, and that my soul knoweth right well.
All right. Welcome back, family. It's great to have everyone joining us in the chat. I've seen some really awesome familiar faces. I'll be looking at what you guys are saying throughout this. Any questions that you have for our guest. We have a special guest, someone that I came across on TikTok, that little crazy app that can be pretty bad at times. But I found someone on there, and I was actually in the midst of doing all my research with evolution, and I was passionate about it, and, you know, getting angry at all the lies I was seeing. And when I saw one of his videos, I reached out to him and was blessed that he said, sure, I'll join, you know, and just instantly came back and replied and was willing to help us expose this lie for what it is, these millions and billions of years that's repeated all the time, everywhere you go. So I'm going to go ahead and bring him on from the Lost World Museum. We have John Adolfi. So thanks, John, for joining us. It's good to see you.
You too, Josh. Thank you for having me on.
Heck yeah, it's a blessing. I like your humble approach and the way you do these little quick videos. It's amazing. It's like you've been doing them forever. But I was checking it out. I'm gonna go ahead and pull up your websites and your links. These things are in the description for those of you who are just joining us. His YouTube, he has a YouTube channel, and he's been doing that for a couple years. How long have you been doing YouTube? It didn't seem like you've been doing it that long.
No, we'd only started getting going with YouTube about a year.
Oh, wow. And you've already reached up to 84,000 subscribers. That's really impressive. That's showing me, you know, there's some movement going on there, because the censorship world does not like the stuff you're putting out there to be seen. So it's cool to see that type of growth in today's world, in today's time. That is extremely rare. So YouTube, TikTok, that's where I found you, was on TikTok. I didn't even know you had a YouTube, so that's pretty cool. And you also share timelines and biblical artifacts on your website. And I thought that was something really cool. lostworldmuseum.com. Lots of interesting, interesting things there. So I'll let you go ahead and talk about some of these things if you wanted to share anything about them, or give anybody some directions of how to find things, or kind of what you're about, because I'd like to learn more about you. I literally just came across you, or seen you, you know, periodically over the last several months, but more so here recently.
Well, thank you. And let's roll back the clock to 1984, if I may.
Yeah.
Okay? I was in San Diego, California, in the United States Navy. All right. I was a agnostic, no longer church-going Catholic. That's my background.
Wow.
And I was not opposed to anything Christian, but I wasn't attracted to anything Christian. And as far as Origen's question, that was the last thing on my mind necessarily. Okay, this is really cool. I'm walking on the ship one day, and we were home ported in San Diego, and I remember exactly where I was. And at the speed of thought, you know how you think crazy things sometimes? Things just randomly go through your brain.
Yeah.
Well, I had one of those moments, but it was not random, even though it appeared random in the beginning. And it was in the form of like an emphatic like statement / question. And it was, the Bible is the inspired word of God? ? I mean, truthfully, there was nothing that precipitated that I could figure out that as I traced back the memories of what may have instigated that. Long story short, I had a road in front of me, and one path said no, and one path said yes. I went down the one path that said no. And you got to understand something. When it comes to this creation evolution controversy, when I was 23 years old, when I was standing there on the ship, I had very little knowledge on either. Just what little I learned in school, what little I learned in Catholic school or church. So I had very little resources, but I didn't have a chip on my shoulder, nor did I have a flag to wave. I was agnostic.
Yeah. Wow.
And now, as I say, proud of it in the sense that I did not have any proclivity towards one or the other, nor did I have anybody around me that was influencing me. And I was 3,000 miles from home. I had complete sovereign independence of thought, movement, everything. I could do whatever I wanted. With that said, I went down the road of evolution is true, and I wanted to see where that all went. I was literally horrified because what I saw was that there was, and I'm not going to say no purpose. What I came up with was 3 words. It was depressing, dark, and it was hopeless. That there was nothing there. And like I say, I didn't have the bias. I just realized on its own, it doesn't go anywhere. It's a dead end. And so then I turned and I did something I never thought I'd do. And that is I concluded by default that it's got to be the word of God has got to be inspired by God.
Wow.
That's how it started. And then, fast forward all those years, here we are today. And so in regards to the creation evolution, it all started back in 92 when I thought, wouldn't it be cool to be able to have a 9'9" Goliath doll? And
Yeah.
for people to be able to witness what size and mass looks like at that height to get a sense of what David was confronting. That's the embryo of this. 2005, we formed the museum. We couldn't afford to do a real museum, but we always wanted to. So I had a business strategic coach who was a Christian, and he told me in 2010, set the museum to the side and let's go ahead and develop your real estate practice so you'll have more funds to be able to develop your museum. So for 10 years, I pretty much left everything to the side. And then in 2017, I started to play with a little bit. 18, 19, I got more serious about it. And then I discovered TikTok in January of 2020. And I opened up a TikTok for my real estate and a TikTok for some sort of like puppet show or something that I was playing with a couple of fun things for kids. And I posted a few things and I thought it was very novel and weird. I didn't know what I was doing. And then somebody had sold me a mastodon tooth. And before he did, I took a 20-second video of it. In February, March, whatever, April of 2020, I posted it. And the few hundred people that looked at it, maybe reacted to it, I got such a feeling of satisfaction inside, I closed both the other TikTok accounts down.
Wow.
And that's what started this whole thing. I mean,
Cool.
Yeah, and then it just became a platform museum, more so than a physical museum, although we do have something very, very tiny next to my real estate office in Phoenix, New York.
Wow, that's really cool. I was actually going to show one of your videos during my last live hangout. I was like, I meant to include it because it was one of your, they're so short, and they are, I think it was, I don't know, a minute, videos. They're not very long on there.
Yeah.
And I ended up not getting to show it. So I was like, man, maybe I'll get to show it some other day. But really, really to the point, and they show you show artifacts for people that don't know that literally destroy that millions of year timeline scenario. And so you actually have artifacts with you. That's what I was wondering when I talked
I
to you the other
do.
day. I was like, so this guy, he has artifacts, and I'm picturing you being in this massive museum or something, but you do this stuff out of that small little office and out of your house.
Yeah, we converted our living room into a museum studio. All of my
So cool.
artifacts are all around me on shelves in back of this right here and on the side of me.
Wow. That is so cool. Because when I was growing up, I was told that things like fossils take at least 10,000 years to form.
That's right.
And so instantly that goes against the Bible, instantly. And so that makes me go, well, I guess I have to figure out how Genesis really works, because that's, the current narrative with it being the age that it is can't be true. And so you start changing the Bible and saying, well, in the beginning, it was without form. Everything was just there. It was really ancient. There was probably dinosaurs before that chapter. And you just kind of mold your biblical reality with the false given reality. And it creates a lot of confusion.
This right here is a dinosaur vertebrae. And it's this was taken out of it was either Wyoming, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
And let me just kind of give a nice close-up of it. Fossilization, and I'll tell you something, I'm not a scientist or an expert. I'm just an enthusiast. Okay. So there's an edge to my knowledge, and I'm fine with that. So, and I'm learning more every single day. Under the auspices of fossil, there's something called permineralization. And I just learned over the last couple of months what that is. It's fascinating. This is a permineralized dinosaur vertebrae. What it means is that the material that makes up the dinosaur bone never dissolved. It's there, and it was then formed with crystals around it and then hardened. So it's still there. Oh, wow. And what's in a lot of bones are like this. This is not like unique or anything, but I'm going to show you probably the coolest artifact that we have.
Please do. This is cool.
This is a fedora.
Oh, wow.
And this is permineralized, or the equivalent of permineralization.
Not a time traveler, you're telling me.
No.
From millions of years ago.
You'd be surprised how many people play with that concept when dealing with how to reconcile these fast forming fossils. They play with that concept. Now, what you're seeing in there is a piece of wood that was applied to the top of the hat inside of it in order for them to be able to screw a holder on it, that then this hung by a rope in England over a mineral, I don't want to call it falls, it was a drips. Mm-hmm. And this was in the mineral water, dripping on it for 2 years.
Wow.
And
that's a stone. That is so cool.
Yeah, and people will sit there. Now, I haven't done a video to talk about this yet. This one part I'm about to share with you. So this is the first time that I've been able to share this. But people have said, oh, that's not permineralized. It just got, the water just covered it all with minerals. It's not permineralized. Well, the guy that had this done said, yes, it is, because it hung on a string like this. The water came and did this. The water did not go inside here. But it is permineralized, other than this little plastic ring. The water, It didn't hang like this. It hung like this. It went all the way through it. It soaked all the way through the felt of the fedora, and it permineralized the hat. It's heavy.
That is so cool. I would wear that thing everywhere just to show people how fast it happens.
No, you wouldn't. It's
It's a hard hat.
to continue on that theme, here's a little teddy bear. We asked the good people of Karlovy Vary in the Czech Republic that has a high mineral content in their water. And they do this as souvenirs. And we asked them to take this exact bear and put it in their mineral bath. And aragonite, which is like a calcite type material. Well, anyway, this is what resulted from it. And this is like 3 times as heavy as this. And again, now some would say, well, that doesn't prove anything. Okay. And they say, well, it's just minerals coagulating. I'm like going, what's sandstone?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm no geologist, but I mean, what's sandstone? If you look at the definition of stone, it'll say minerals, and they don't use the word coagulate, but you get what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
They're fused. That's what makes a sedimentary stone. Question is, how long does it take? And we've demonstrated more than once that it doesn't take very long. But then the other question is begged, even if it did form quickly, how old is it? And there you can, so there's really 2 discussions. How old is it? How long did it take to form? And they say, oh, any high schooler or grade schooler, if they want to try to put you down, knows this. They teach this. No, they don't. If they teach it on the collegiate level, this information is not, and it doesn't forward their theory. So why would they dwell on it after they spent maybe 15 minutes explaining about fast forming stuff? I mean, I don't know.
Yeah. My kids, I showed them some of this stuff recently at school. They've never heard of it. The teachers I work with have never, heard of, I mean, they've heard of some of these things, like, trying to think, there was something, I showed it to one of my teachers, like this, a fossilized, it was a cowboy foot. I don't know if you saw that one. It's like a fossilized, it's still in the boot. And it's like that. It's just like you would find the petrified wood. This thing is solid stone. And they found it in 1980, and the boot looks like it's from that era. And so I was like, that definitely destroys that it takes even 100 years. That has to be within at least 10 years, maybe even 5. Who knows how long it took to do that? But that was impressive to me. I don't know what happened to the guy, but this was 1980 when they found this. So this stuff's been around for a while. We've had this type of evidence, and I'd never heard of it. That gets the people going crazy about time travel. Like when they found that hammer wrapped inside of a rock back in the early 1900s, all the articles now say, this does suggest time travel because this layer of rock is 140 million years old. And so you either believe in time travel or you believe these things can happen rapidly.
Exactly. Also in Karlovy Vary, this is an iron water pipe that was cross-sectioned, that water went through it. And that's all the mineral buildup of it. It took 80 years to build up 2.5 inches of water, or excuse me, of sediment. That's aragonite right there.
Wow. That is so cool. I'd like to make your screen bigger, but I'm having trouble. That is so cool. How long did you say that took?
80 years.
Jeez. Yeah, you see something like that in a cave, and there that that was 120,000 years worth. That is so cool.
Let's see. Speaking of which, here's a replica of the London hammer.
There it is, the beloved time traveler's hammer. We know how Thor died.
Now, for those of you who don't know, this hammer was found, and there was a piece over it like this that they have one section of that piece still. Covered it like this. They found this in London, Texas in either 1934 or 1936. And it became the property of the Creation Evidence Museum in Glen Rose, Texas. And they sold replicas of this. I picked up one in 2007. And some unique features of this are that the wood, which again, this is a replica, is beginning to go through a process of coalification. Now, coalification, or something that turns to coal, doesn't just do that under normal geological circumstances. You have to have certain characteristics: mineralized water, pressure, heat, and then it starts to do its thing. And so that's one thing. The other thing is that the iron, they had the iron tested, and the iron was really very pure. The 96% of it that was iron, but there was a little bit of sulfur, and then they had, let me get my little cheat sheet here. That's the analysis they did on it. Very, very pure, no bubbles, and I guess that means something. But right there, you can see that it's got chlorine in it, and they do not, except for dust, I guess, they can't bond, I guess, chlorine with iron. There's indicators that this is Grandpa's hammer that was caught in the mud and turned into stone 150 years ago. There's also a case that this is an antediluvian artifact. Either way, it can pose problems. They say, oh, this has been debunked. You'll hear that.
Yeah, all the time.
You'll also hear that Dr. Carl Baugh does not allow anyone to examine it. I called him yesterday. I interviewed him on the phone for an upcoming video, and I asked him, I said, Dr. Baugh, the critics out there say that you won't let anyone touch it, get near it. I said, has that ever been the policy of your museum? Have you ever turned anyone away? Surprised, he said to me, John, I have never heard that. And I'll tell you something right now, nobody has ever approached us to have it examined. Nobody.
Wow.
And I believe him, because he's not a liar. This is the world famous cup in iron cup that was found in coal. Now take a good look at the cup.
To me, that was cool. I think that's one of the things I saw before I reached out to you. I was like, I've got to have this guy on to share these things. That is an iron cup, right? Was it iron, or what was it?
Yes, it's iron, and that's the cup right here. This is just a facsimile. This is just for effect. The coal that you see this encased in. And all fairness, the coal pieces were never kept. We have the cup. We have the testimony of two men in 1912 at a power station in Oklahoma. They had a huge piece of coal. They whacked it, and two people watched this cup fall out of the coal. Well, that was in 1912. In 1948, the gentleman, Mr. Kennard, who was the one that did the breaking of the coal, thought well enough that he might as well put his testimony down and have it notarized. That doesn't mean he's telling the truth.
Yeah.
Now, I asked Carl Baugh yesterday in our interview on this particular object, I said, is there any characteristics about this that are noteworthy? He said, the iron is not exotic. It's very common. He says, but when we did analysis on the cup, inside the cup, we found traces of coal.
Wow.
I'm getting goosebumps.
Yeah.
That is cool.
That is really cool.
That's cool. Because it doesn't necessarily, and he thinks it's a ladle, part of a ladle. So the question is, where'd this come from? It's possible, very possible, that this is an antediluvian artifact. And they say, well, iron wasn't invented until 3,000 years ago. According to Genesis, it was invented 5,500 years ago by Tubal-Cain. He was a metallurgist, and he dabbled in brass and brass, bronze, and iron. So, yeah, 3,500 BC, good old Tubal-Cain. Who knows? Maybe he manufactured this.
Yeah. Well, that one fascinated me because I saw the videos where people are in these mines and there's trees growing through multiple layers of like coal and rock, and the trees themselves are black. They look like coal. Like these are actual like petrified trees, but they look more like coal than they do some sort of tree that's been mineralized any other way. It just looks like a tree made out of coal. And you can see that it goes through these multiple layers, and it's almost like there was some sort of flood or this stuff formed around it, and then it turned into what we know today as coal. And so to me, I'd seen some of those videos, and then I saw that artifact, and I was like, wow, I wonder what the story is, because I'm seeing so many things with coal that go against the the narrative that I always was told about oil and coal. You know, they invented that term, you know, fossil fuels way back when to have us believing that we're powering our cars with the remains of dead plants and dinosaurs from millions of years ago that have just had pressures over top of them. And so
Yeah.
I think that's you pull up the Google definition. It says that it's energy stored by plants that lived hundreds of millions of years ago in
Sure.
swampy forests and stuff. So never a flood, just a swampy forest.
Right. And I don't know if any swamps have ever produced that kind of effect, but that's what they're saying.
Yeah,
You know. So
that's cool.
all right, one more artifact that shows. Now this right here is, again, that's a type of calcite, kind of the same thing as cement or limestone, and that is a Chinese coin that was found on the China Sea. One of the junks that was carrying many coins. There's a whole stack of them there.
Wow.
They littered the floor 800 years ago, and when they pulled them up, that's what they look like.
Dang. So that'd be like we'd have to believe that like dinosaurs were using those coins with that narrative.
No, you know, truthfully,
Yeah.
anyone who knows a little bit about geology would sit there and just roll their eyes and say,
Yeah.
of course that can happen in 800 years.
Yeah.
But it doesn't prove a worldwide flood.
Mm-hmm.
I once asked a guy years ago, probably 2001. I was on a skeptic site, and I said, let me ask you something. If they ever found a 5,000-year-old wooden vessel up on top Mount Ararat, the exact spot that the Bible says it could be, it is, and it was 500 feet long, you know, what would you say to that? He said that there was a large barge up on top of a mountain.
Wow.
Power of belief, my friend.
Yeah.
The power of belief.
It's extremely powerful. I mean, I've been going through, because I've been getting heavy into the evolution stuff here lately. Just had like it's motivating. I think nothing motivates me more than watching children be deceived directly, and even by innocent people. It's not that these people are evil and they're liars. They were deceived, and so you're seeing the fruits of that deception going on. And so every time you look for these main, you know, videos and proof videos or evidence for evolution videos, they're always using the words fact, the fact that we have all this evidence. But when you see somebody pull up stuff like the dinosaur soft tissue, there's been several people do that. Mark Armitage, Maria Schweitzer. And when you look at the responses to that, where they see these blood cell type findings coming out of the bones and these things that haven't broke down over the millions of years, and the people see it, the devout evolutionists, and they're like, okay, you know, well, there's just some miraculous preservation technique that we don't know of yet. And
Yeah.
they'll just buy into whatever new technique they think could have done that. And I mean, I feel like we're at the point where we could find an eyeball that's intact in one of these fossil, you know, one of these sets of bones, and they'd be like, preservation, you know. And Mark Armitage, he's pulling these things out in the desert. He said there's bones that'll be sticking out of the ground, and I'll break them down, find soft tissue. You know, they're not in some magical vacuum chamber sealed tightly. They're exposed to rain and a lot of the things like your artifacts are. So I'm like, it's hard. You can't. I mean, people are just so blinded by it. It's almost like they don't want it to be true.
Exactly. And I get it. You know, I mean, let's see. What else do we have here for you? Oh, yeah. The fossil finger.
Oh,
I think it was 2000, somewhere around there, that this limestone finger was found near the Glen Rose, Texas area in the Paluxy River area. And this right here is an exact replica of the finger. Now, I'd be honest with you. When I first saw this, I thought, I don't know how convincing this really is. But when I went down to the Glen Rose, Texas Museum and actually touched it, held it in my hand, and looked at it, and then looked at the analysis that they did on it, I'm going to show you the spiral CAT scan they did of the cross section of this right here. So what I'm going to show you is this right here. Now take another good look at it. There's a cuticle right there. That would be like, you know, the different joints, knuckles, joints right there. Okay, watch this. This is what they found when they did the CAT scan. Let me just get that so you can see it. There we go. There's a density change right inside of it, as if it's bone. They cut it in two places. They needed to look inside of it. And when they did, they found various things that, let me just say for the sake of discussion, that appear to be ligaments and bone. Because of the taper of the finger, they believe it's a woman's finger, pinky. I'm 6 foot. She would have been quite a very tall woman. Wow. If in fact this was, they're not 100% sure, but that's the idea, or at least the theory, that it might be a woman.
That is cool. That reminds me of the fossilized cowboy. Let me see if I can find the picture of that. The fossilized cowboy foot. I always want to say boot. That's still in the boot. So I mean, that's the same type of process, I would assume. Something wrapped, you know, whatever wrapping agent or that would have helped preserve that while it mineralized. That's pretty cool.
Let me make a transition over to giants. I subscribe to the idea that before the flood, we were not only long-lived, which Genesis supports that idea, but also that we were tall, we were strong, we had minds that were capable of remembering everything. I mean, this is Dr. Baugh, through genetics and the measurable amount of information that's lost from generation to generation. If you go back and use that information to calculate IQ, they're saying that the people before the flood had an IQ of somewhere between 400 and 700.
Yeah,
maybe
I can
higher.
believe that for sure.
Yeah.
Wow.
So the question is, because we don't find a lot of human giant, there's giant swords. You know, in the last couple of thousand years, there's giant rock hammers that they found in various parts of the world, in Australia and I think the Middle East. They have found giant footprints in the Paluxy River, 22 inches long. In White Sands, New Mexico, they found 22-inch human footprints with 6-foot strides. That means the people were 11 to 12 feet tall. Goliath was 9'9" if you use the Hebrew cubit. If you go to the royal cubit, he's around 11 feet or so.
Wow.
Now, just because we don't find a lot of evidence for giant humans, here's what we do. We first look at the fossil record. This right here is a horsetail. This is dried out, but it's normally green, and it's about 30 inches, and it grows beside streams and stuff in the wild. Okay. It's characteristic of kind of a bamboo looking structure to it. And even though you may not be able to see it, it has ridges that go up and down. You can feel it as you put your finger across it. Now, some would say that this is a different species related, but let me show you a piece of coal. And they called it from before calamite. This is a horsetail. And it has the little striations, and it has the characteristic bamboo-like joints. This is a small one. The original horsetails grew to be 100 feet tall and were 36 inches in diameter.
Wow.
Did I say diameter? No, the radius. Yeah, diameter. The diameter was 36 inches. They were trees.
Yeah.
Now, just because they're 30 inches today, we went down to Peru and the growing conditions were just perfect that there were 9.5 foot of these down there.
Wow.
And in Bolivia, they were 16 feet. So the genetic expression still remains to some degree when the conditions are right and if they haven't been dumbed down, which is what happened after the flood for the most part. So that's a plant. That's just one example. Now let's look at an animal. I'm sure most of your viewers know what this is by the characteristic teeth there. It's a beaver. And beavers are, 50, 60 pounds, maybe 3 feet long. The pre-flood beaver, again, they'll say this is a different species. It's a pre-flood beaver. Was anywhere between 5 to 8 feet long.
Dang. That'll sink your little rowboat. Those things are territorial. I almost got terrified of some of those one night. I was rafting down in a little blow-up raft one night, and I thought somebody was throwing giant boulders at me, but they splashed the water with their tails to like ward off people. And I really thought some prankster was about to hit me with a giant stone. These things can make quite the splash. I couldn't imagine what one of those would do. And I started thinking, man, the person I was with said, what if it bites the boat? I was like, these things won't bite the boat. But when they started splashing, I was like, maybe they would. That would be terrifying. You get your raft popped by a 5 foot, one of those. Dang.
It's amazing. It shows that something happened after the flood environmentally. And that's basically, that's a whole probably program in and of itself. But let me show you one more thing. Monkeys. You don't hear this talked about enough or much, but this is a jaw to a Gigantopithecus. Now, this is a replica I got from Germany, and a Gigantopithecus is a giant monkey, a 10-foot monkey. And now that jaw right there it doesn't go all the way back here. It only goes right about here. So the jaw would continue on right about to there. A 10-foot monkey. What's a 10-foot monkey doing? Well, they have their theories as far as giant fauna, as they call it, and that at a certain period of Earth's history, everything was larger, and they try to explain. My contention is that the mammals, even the dinosaurs, insects, in France, they have a museum with a fossilized dragonfly with 26-inch wings.
Wow.
So insects, plants, mammals, monkey. So why not humans if that's what the environment dictated and the original genetic expression was as such? That's the idea. So when I go looking for things and I see a footprint that potentially is a 22-inch footprint, I go, of course, because there were 11-foot people before the flood, and that right there is an 11-foot human footprint. Makes sense. Left, right, 6-foot stride, bingo. Whereas anyone else will sit there and say, no, that's a dinosaur. It's been eroded. And that's what they did down in the Paluxy.
Yeah. Wow.
So
that's cool. Yeah. I've been looking at all the different, a lot of the missing links and stuff lately. And so right now I've been looking at the ones for the horse. And it's so funny how you had all these giant creatures back then. Everything gets smaller and smaller with their evolution theory until we have all these little bitty tiny life forms now. Except for the horses, they all of a sudden, they were, these tiny little critters that, were about 2 feet, 1 to 2 feet tall. And now they are as big as they are now. That's a good point.
That's a good point.
It's really weird that they have it like that. It's like everything goes this way. Okay, no, now it goes that way. The first, what was it they call it? Ichthyostega was one of the first to walk out on land, this lizard fish creature. And so it's like, but then it's like, oh, but then whales were made because there was these land animals that went back. So it's like, okay, so we evolved to come on land, and then we're like, nope, we're going back. And then now you have whales, and it's just like the story just takes you on all these different winding paths. And So much of it's based on fraud. Like I found out last week from somebody in my department. I didn't even know this, and I thought I'd investigated all the fraud, that the peppered moth experiment that's in every textbook with natural selection was false, that they were fraudulent, that they took dead moths, put them on trees, glued them to the trees, and took pictures. Like, what? Like with moths, like it's like not even the fossils are they lying about. They're lying about moths. So it's weird. There's just no end, and it's all the mainstream stuff is based on a lot of these lies. So it's really cool to see actual artifacts that go against their millions of years narrative. You cannot escape that narrative. I mean, we watched 2 IMAX movies this month, and we would go to the aquarium, and then we go to the theater, and because we bought these passes. And I told my wife before the first movie started, it was Mount Everest. I said, they're going to show some propaganda with millions of years right away. And sure enough, they're like, millions of years ago when these mountains were forming. And they always bring that in. And I was like laughing about it. And then we come back and watch another movie about the Sahara. And I said, I guarantee they're going to say it. As soon as the movie starts, millions of years ago. This is what, it's like every single time I'm like, my goodness, I should be betting money with people in the crowd because they're going to say it. And they repeat it over and over throughout the entire movie. They just make sure they have a quota. Like what do we have to write in this script? Well, at least make sure you put millions of years and quote Carl Sagan if you can.
I see the same thing in Yahoo News. It's almost as obvious as the marketing department that puts 4, 5, 6 articles on Kim Kardashian in the lineup of the different, because that's what they're doing. It's not that she's interesting, but whether you think so or not, but they're purposely hiring to put those articles in there, not as an ad, but as a newsworthy story. I find that not as often they do the same thing with science in millions of years. It just seems like it's a concerted campaign as opposed to just a discovery that a reporter says, hey, this looks interesting, let's put that in there. I don't know that for a fact. It just seems that way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's very scripted. There's a lot of news. There's a lot of videos going around now where people take segments from all these news companies or stations from across the country, and they all say the exact same quotes.
I've seen those.
Like it's ridiculous. I'm like, man, and it's different ones. It'll be like, well, this one's Fox, this one's CNN, this is ABC. Like they're different. You think they're different companies, but they have the same script writers, which is it's powerful. It is a powerful weapon. And I guess we've all seen that in the last few years, how much they can divide an entire group of people and plant those seeds of hate, make people hate each other. And so I think that's what they're trying to do to slow us down. So I think it's extremely important for all of us to share the truth of creation, to like just unite and help wake our kids up, because it's an all out war. And I guess the older I'm getting and the more children I have, the more I see that. So it's hard to watch. It's been really tough the last 2.5, 3 weeks at work. And so I started praying. I mean, I remember I'm like hyperventilating because I try to be very peaceful. The Bible says plant seeds and be peaceful. And so I'm trying to plant seeds and then I'm peaceful. But then at the same time, when you're seeing this stuff happen, I'm just praying. Like I can see, when Moses, when he came back and saw what the people had done, when he came down from the mountain and he sees they're worshiping the golden calf, he had told, God, hey, repent of what you're thinking. Don't wipe these people out. But then he sees them and he's like, that's it. Wipe them out. Like his mindset changes. And so when I'm seeing these things happen, I'm like, forgive them. They don't know what they're doing. And I just was asking the Father, I said, give me some time with these children to where I can speak to them in a way that, there's no one there to interject and say, well, evolution's true or whatever. And so it worked out all but for one class. And so I've been very blessed. And so if anybody's wondering why I'm on a kick and why we're bringing on people like John here, and hopefully many others like you, John, that have the same type of niche, but you seem to just found a different one. Like I've never seen anybody take off like that in the creation world. So it's kind of cool. Your approach, it's just very humble, not know-it-all type of approach. And you have little videos that are very simple, easy to understand how these things come about rather quickly. So I appreciate you putting all the work into the things you're doing like that, because it is making a difference. And sadly, that's where our generation is going. They're all flocking to things like TikTok. And you said you came across it not that long ago. I wouldn't have came across it if I wasn't a teacher watching kids change, because we've seen kids change in my lifetime. I've been in the classroom since the 80s, as not as a teacher, but the early 80s as a student, and then all the way until now. I've only spent 1 year outside of class since then, and so I've watched the cultural changes influence our kids and influence us. When I was in middle school, MTV was like, it was everything. You couldn't record stuff and watch it very easily, but we were watching it all the time. VH1, music television, and it changed the entire population. People started getting these identities from these tactics and this pop culture being pushed on us. But nothing was ever as fast acting as things like TikTok. You started seeing kids dancing differently, walking differently, looking at their phones. And I would see these shy individuals who would not like raise their hand in class dancing in front of their cell phone trying to make a TikTok video. And I'm like, there's something to this. And instead of hiding from it, I need to, put truth out there and try to reach these kids. And so I'm sure you probably experienced the same thing. It's a powerful tool. There's weird people out there, but we're basically, it feels like you're stepping into a house that's on fire trying to rescue people. Do you kind of feel that way when you use these things?
It's interesting you say that. When for the first 2 years we were on TikTok, we went and did TikTok live 5 days a week.
Oh, wow.
And we would ask people, where are you from? And every once in a while, I'll tell you, some of the ones that really my heart goes out to are the ones from Qatar and the Middle East. We would every once in a while get somebody who would raise their hand, identify themselves in the sense of where they lived from the Middle East. And one even said that if they knew I was watching this, I would be in very, very big trouble.
My goodness.
Yeah. And so to be able to reach that person, on that platform, all the criticism that it gets, all the naughtiness that it has on there, is we're using it as a tool to be able to reach people that we wouldn't necessarily be able to reach. And that has been a real privilege. And it's just astonishing to be able to. I don't know what else to say. It's just been incredible.
Yeah. I mean, you've reached, I think, let me see if I can pull that back up. It said 11.7 million likes. So that's not even how many people it's reached. That's how many people have actually hit the like. And so almost 1 million followers. That's worldwide. I mean, to me, that's a blessing. That's what I like about apps like, or platforms like this, like YouTube. When I first woke up to the truth about creation, or not really, I've been awake to it, but really had my eyes reopened to, intelligent design, and had some miracles happen. I didn't know where to go. I was like, where do I share this? And of course, I just started putting stuff on YouTube, and the Father I asked him to send people this way. And like, I'm telling you, just a lot like what you've experienced. It was sudden. I went from, a couple hundred to like 40,000 within a couple months. And I'm like, man, this is far more of a reach than I could have going to a building, taking out an extra, 2,000, 3,000 a month to rent a small place and reaching 12 people. Like, this is something that to me is just, it's so powerful. Somebody's asking what miracles. Yeah, the miracles I had, it's a long story. I want to share that story soon. I feel bad. I've been doing this on this platform for like 7 years now, and I haven't shared my full testimony. So I need to get around to not slacking and do that, because it'll make things make a lot more sense when people see kind of where you come from.
Yeah.
Because I've had miracles. But to summarize that, an answer to that question, I had my broken heart healed in the blink of an eye. And when I say the blink of an eye, I mean lightning bolt struck me with the Holy Spirit. And that was 15 years ago. And then my mother was diagnosed with cancer and was told she was going to die within about 4 to 2 months, depending on if she did chemo or not. And so I started praying, and within a day of praying, asking the Father to show my mom what he showed me about his love. People think they're going to die. They start going, I deserve this. This is the Father's will. I'm going to die. He's wrathful. He hates me. And I asked him to speak to her, and he did. She texted me while I was at work the next day, and she said, God spoke to me. And I'm just like, I about hit my knees and started crying right there in class. I'm like, why is he listening to me? Why is this person, this creator, he's already healed me, why is he listening to me? And so I started praying harder. I started going outside and praying more, and he kept showing me he was listening. And then that led me to create this channel. And then it's a much deeper story, but that's just kind of a summary. I'll share that at a later time. But yeah, it's powerful. I know there's a creator, and that's what made me obsessed with intelligent design. I'm like, I want to teach biology now. Like, I'm already in a classroom with biology teachers, and I'm learning this stuff, but we don't know anything about life. Let's look into it. And the more I look, I'm like, it keeps getting more complex, more complex. We don't even have a photo of the double helix. What the heck? What's going on? Why don't we have a photo of the double helix? Like, I've seen this thing everywhere. And it's like, we don't. We just have animations. We have to animate the reality of these kids that we want them to believe in. So they do that with evolution. They do it with everything. And so I like to tell kids simple stuff like, you can pull up a calculator or a cell phone or whatever it is you have and say, if I told you I dug this up out of the ground and that through pressure and time, the few ingredients, because your cell phone only has what? Glass, which comes from sand, metal, all these different ingredients. If you're looking at this device here, and I told you I pulled this out of the ground during a dig, and it was made through pressure and time and, wind hitting it just right, lightning strike, whatever. Would you think I was crazy? And these kids are like, yeah, I think you're super crazy if you said that. And I'm like, one cell in your body is more complex than this phone. One cell, one organelle in your cell. This phone can't replicate itself. It can't make another cell phone. If I leave it here, it's just going to deteriorate, So once they start seeing that, they're like, wow, we're that complex. Yes. You have more memory in one of your cells than that cell phone has. Like, our creator left his mark on creation in his intelligent design. So it really perks kids up. They start getting excited when they see stuff like what you're showing. Like, if you were to go around to different schools and bring your setup, like, you would have, that would just be the coolest thing. Like, I could imagine that being like a road show. You're going around doing little tours.
It's funny you say that, because the day before yesterday, my wife and I went down to a elementary school, and the second and third graders, there was about 22 children. It was a Christian school, and we brought some of the artifacts down with us. And you know the Adams time chart?
Uh-huh.
Yeah. We spread that on the floor, and they were circled around in their little chairs. And then we took artifacts and we placed them on the chart where they were in the time, and they were so amazed.
Oh, wow.
Wow, that's really close. Wow, that's really far away. They were like, my head's hurting, they would say.
That's awesome.
It really was.
Yeah.
And then we donated it to the school, and they were like, oh, and then you want to know what the biggest reward was for it is the 3 kids that came up and uninitiated and gave me hugs.
Wow.
I have to say that's probably my takeaway from it.
Yeah. Yeah. It makes you want to do it more often. It's like so motivational.
It was just really good.
Yeah.
Can I just do a real quick commercial break?
Yeah. Take your break. Yeah, for sure.
Well, what I want to do is I want to offer anybody that's watching this, this report. And I use this report strictly as for anyone that wants to receive our newsletter, which is really more an alert when we release a YouTube video. It's more efficient, and also anything else that we have. But anyway, this is called The 3 Top Reasons Noah's Ark Must Still Exist. You can't get this anywhere on the internet. And how you get that, and I'll just put this right here. You go to museumalerts.com and you can download it after you put your email in there. So that's how you can get this report. That's all.
Okay. Museumalerts.com. Okay. You might have to lift it up a little bit. I think but I can
absolutely. There you go. Take a screenshot of that, friends. There you go.
Cool. And your website, I'm going to pull this up again, another part of the commercial. YouTube, Lost World Museum, TikTok, Lost World Museum, and his website is literally that name.com, lostworldmuseum.com. Really cool stuff with timelines. And I'm a visual learner. I like seeing that stuff. The visual timelines and maps. When I'm doing a study, I have to put everything out to where I could visually see it. And then I start learning. The whole Bible starts making sense. When you don't see the timelines, it's really hard to, and even the locations. My wife, she can see the locations, and she's like, oh, they were in the Northern Kingdom, and then they were in the Southern, and this went here. And I'm like, how do you see that when you read the Bible? People are gifted in different ways. So I thought that
they are.
It's good to have the visuals for people like me who are visual learners. That's really cool. Did you have anything else you were wanting to share with that?
I want to share one more. We're going to be doing a series on our on all our platforms.
Yeah.
But I just want to give you a taste. We experimented with once, and this is going to be in our second video, and that is the comparative. We'll call it comparative structure, comparative anatomy. This right here are both of these are nautiluses. This right here is from the fossil record, and of course they would tell you that this is, pick your number, okay? 100 million years old, 60 million years, 200 million years. This is today. I am not really seeing any difference. And that, well, the argument is that, well, it achieved perfection through evolution a long time ago, and it didn't need to change or adapt. Yeah, okay. There are so many examples of things that have not changed at all. And of course, I contend that this died in the worldwide flood, and it did not change in the last 45 years, not much, to what we have here today. So we're going to show multiple examples of how things have not changed and draw the same conclusion on each not artifact, but fossil that we show. So that's something we're working on right now.
Nice. So yeah, so that is really cool. Yeah, from what I've seen, that's what the evidence points to me was a flood, that these bones that are scattered, because even when you look at the age, let me add this back to the stream of fossils. I can find it here. Where's it at? 10,000 years, fossils being that old, life beginning about 3.7 billion years ago. And then you look at dinosaur fossils. This is what cracks me up. It says paleontologists have never found a complete dinosaur skeleton. Often part of the skeleton is missing, either because the bones were washed away, like literally, like you're in my mind, I'm visualizing a flood already. They were just washed away because an asteroid. Is it because the asteroid caused a dust cloud and then they washed away after they died? Like that doesn't go with what we're finding. The evidence points to there was mass destruction, whether it was the giants fighting it out, the pre-flood Nephilim, the corrupted flesh. Flesh was corrupted back then. They were doing things like we're genetically modifying things. It says God made man in the sixth day. Right now, timeline-wise, we're in that sixth day. Peter says every day is like 1,000 years. We would be in that sixth day. And here we are trying to make man. We're trying to make this artificial intelligent life. We're modifying life. We're corrupting all flesh. We're doing all those things similar to what they were doing way back when. And so it's really cool to see these artifacts. And somebody had kept asking, is there any proof of bones fossilizing here and becoming like stone? Yeah, here's one of many examples, kind of like John has, where you see bones turning into stone. A fossilized cowboy boot. Don't know what happened to that guy. One-legged cowboy somewhere was pretty angry, but you can look at it and see it turned directly into stone. No longer is it bone. Fossilized octopus. Those things don't have any bones. And so flesh doesn't last that long in an aquatic environment. It's going to dissolve and be gone within weeks. So that looks like a flood had to have happened. Mudslide covered that thing up. I just did a video about this guy, Mark Armitage. Have you had a chance to check out his work? The guy that was fired?
Limited.
Okay.
Mostly
really
it's
cool.
Schweitzer.
Yeah, you might be able to get him to come on. I've tried to get him to talk, and I don't know. He's like, no, I just want to let you guys, let people see the work themselves. Nobody sees this guy's stuff. And he's found soft tissue time and time again. And he did cross sections of the bones that he found, and he found blood clotting in the bones, which indicates that they drowned because of the iron deposits in the bone. So he said that would happen if they drowned. Yep. So I thought, wow, that's forensic evidence there. And then you have Maria Schweitzer. She found the exact same thing. And you can even see the picture, obvious soft tissue. And she was kind of like skeptical, like, am I really seeing something like this? Am I really seeing what I think I see? And she had other people look at it, and they confirmed, yeah, that's what you're seeing. This is soft tissue. And looks like blood cells in there still. I mean, it was crazy. And I think that's kind of what helped inspire the Jurassic Park series, these types of discoveries, but you don't hear about them. And if you do, it's, creationists are trying to hijack this. No, we're just saying it aligns a lot with what we believe in the Bible, and it's repeatable. It's provable. We don't need animations. We could just take a microscope and look, directly at these things. So it's really, really cool stuff. Here's some more pictures of that. Like, you don't have to take our word for it. Go out, find some of these bones that are scattered about. We don't have a complete set for a reason. They're young, and whatever they were, dragons, giants, we don't have a complete set for a reason. And so that's my takeaway from all of the fossil evidence, things that you're seeing. And you've shown things that, stalactites and stalagmites, they say take thousands and millions of years to form.
Right.
And you had a pipe in one of your videos, and it had those exact same formations. And I thought, wow, because every time I've gone on a guided tour in a cave, they've brought that up and said this stalactite here started forming when dinosaurs walked the earth, and it's as 10 feet tall now. But you showed one that was like, I forget how old it was, from just water running through a pipe that was
6 months.
6 months old. And I'm like, dang, I would have thought that was, at least 80 years, but no, it doesn't take that long. This stuff's pretty cool. My brother's in the chat. He said, so cool to have him on. I wish my brother could have joined in. He's starting to get trying to set him up an office too, so he can join in. I've got a twin brother. You probably I don't know if you've got a chance to see him in any of our videos, but yeah, he's going through a lot of the same stuff I am, and on that same path. Just needs to get his act together and get his office set up so he can stream with us. This is cool. But I appreciate your time, John. I know you're probably been on here for over an hour, and just blessed to have you on. And put aside any differences we have as creationists, I think it's cool to fellowship, do so peacefully, and promote each other's work. So you can share it. You can go through and they can find your videos and go, hey, I've got a friend who thinks, believes in evolution. Here's something, a 1-minute video that'll get them thinking. They don't have to go and watch a 30-minute video that we do. They can watch something like that and go, wow, that's cool. Never thought about that. And so it's stuff you're not seeing in school. The textbooks are never going to catch up to the truth. They still have deceptions from over 100 years ago, and they're riddled with them. And so that's the world we're in. We have to adapt and wake up our children, other people's children. Send your kids to school to wake up other kids. Have fun with it. So yeah, I appreciate it. Did you have anything else you wanted to share, or anybody have any questions for John? Because who knows when we may ever get to have him back on again. Who knows what'll happen. But if you have any questions for him, I'm going to be looking through, try to do them in all caps so I can see it. And hopefully we can get some answers for you. Yeah.
Understand that when you are discussing this with, let's say, an evolutionist, my cross section, if I can stereotype, are typically, they're loud, not necessarily in volume of their voice. They're loud. They're typically a bit of an intellectual. They are well read. They know both sides of the argument, probably better than one who is trying to engage. And they've got all the things to try to mess you up. And so, to me, it all boils down to this: the argument. Maybe not to them, and that is, in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. Is the Bible the inspired word of God? And is that true? That's it.
Yeah.
If it isn't, if you don't believe it is, so be it. I believe that is true. In spite of the criticisms, in spite of the logical criticisms and deductions that they come up with, I don't care. Yeah. And they will criticize even someone to have that kind of attitude. I don't care. Word of God is inspired.
Yeah. So. It's provable. It's true. It's so cool how it's provable. You just look at the artifacts, look at the evidence. You can use the same techniques they use to try and prove their theory, to prove that the Bible, it's not a theory. It's coming true. Prophecies being fulfilled. The wickedness, the lawlessness increasing in the last days, like the beloved Son told us it would. And so here we are trying to expose these false lies and false teachings. Be kind about it, and be patient. That's one thing I've been working on. It's hard for me to be patient. I just want to put this evidence in the faces of everybody, and, especially other teachers and stuff, because I know their kids are so sweet and innocent, and they're not going to fully investigate like a lot of us didn't growing up when we were told certain things about the world that we live in. So pray for these people, reach out to them, share things with them. You guys are doing a good job helping wake everybody up. This is cool times to be in for sure. I know it's probably going to get a little crazier here on the internet. We're seeing them talk about shutting down apps like TikTok, where people like John are reaching millions around the world. And so we have to stay united and share each other's work, share websites and things, so that if he was to disappear from there, you can find him quite easily. So definitely blessed to have you on, John. Thanks
Hey,
so much.
before I go, can I answer Living Horizons question?
Yeah, that's why I pulled that up for you. I was hoping you'd.
Yeah, thank you. Anyone who's interested in any of the experiments that are going to be going on that you don't even know are going to be going on forward, the few that have been done in the past mainly were done by the Creation Evidence Museum and Dr. Carl Baugh, who we spoke about earlier in the program. He has an 80-foot by 8-foot hyperbaric chamber that he is trying to get to seal, because it was some kind of tank at one time for something else that they've repurposed.
Wow.
And in it, they're going to do biological, not human, but biological experiments as they replicate the conditions that they believe, and I believe that they're correct, in the pre-flood world. As Dr. Baugh says, I want to see a certain type of, I'm not sure what kind of animal or bird it is. They're getting some eggs that they're to fertilize, that they're going to hatch outside, inside the tank, and see what the genetic potential is of it in the tank. It's going to get wild, and it's going to be cool. There's going to be cameras on 24/7 to be able to watch this outside and inside the tank. So those of you that are really keen on this, just type it in, Creation Evidence Museum, and then put it in your favorites and check back every few weeks. It may be months before they finally get the doors to seal. That's what they're having trouble with right now. They've had the doors sent out and rebuilt. That's custom, man, and it's expensive, but they're the ones who are going to lead the way. They just opened up a lab that connects to it. Unbelievable things that they're going to be doing in this biosphere.
Wow, that is cool. I'm glad you had an answer to that, because I have not. I've heard about it, but I haven't looked into it at all.
Yeah.
Beyond just hearing about it. Looking for more questions. Any more questions, guys? While we have John here. Okay. Can't wait to see it. Amen. All right. Well, it's been a major blessing, John. I appreciate you coming on, sharing some of your evidence and your thoughts. This stuff is really cool to me. I like seeing your little videos, and I'm going to keep checking those out and try to compile a lot of them while they're still there. Don't want to say like they're going to be deleted or anything, but share things while we can. You just never know. And write down these websites, type them in, maybe make a little, store them in the tab on your computer. However you guys do that. You guys are more technological than I am, but
and just to let your guests know, anything that we do, you guys are welcome to take and do whatever you want with it. You want to put it, you want to send it out, you want to post it on your own site or social media site, feel free. Just get the word out.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, same here. A lot of people ask, can we share your stuff? Yeah, go ahead. I've had videos that I've done on here reach like 20,000 people, and then someone on TikTok takes 3 minutes of it and it reaches millions. And that's what it's about. I'm not here to make a name. I'm not like, wait, you didn't share a link. No, I don't care.
Yeah.
I understand how the world works.
Yep.
I'm not here to be in a spotlight. I want the Father's truth and his work and his evidence to be seen. And so
absolutely.
That's why I wanted you to come on, John, because I feel like you have the same desire. It's not about you.
Absolutely.
A lot of times your face isn't even in the video. It's just your hands showing, look at this evidence. Yeah. So it's cool to see you at work,
thank you.
See your passion, and man, it's a gift. You've been definitely gifted by the Most High to do what you do. So keep seeking.
All right.
Humble. But yeah, brother, it's been a lot of fun. We will see you around. If you need anything, let me know.
Thank you, Josh, and thank you for all of you that are watching. I appreciate it. And there you go.
All right. I love you guys. We'll see you, family.